Hey, just as a quick warning, in this podcast we will be talking about death. So, Mark, are you ready?
Born ready.
Hello and welcome to episode 36 of I'm Fine, a chat between myself, Damo, and a man who's meatier than a Domino's meat feast and meaty all put together. And getting meatier all the time, aren't you? Right now?
Put more weight, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Loving it.
It's a chat around the subjects of health, wealth, well-being, fitness, sport, and things like the hugely Christmassy subject of effective altruism and self-actualization, which I'm sure got everybody in the Christmas spirit. We're all work in progress, and this podcast is no exception. In short, it's a poke at our perfectly imperfect lives, and if we can make just one person feel like they're not alone in all this madness, then our work here is done. Now, if you haven't already subscribed to us via your favourite podcasting app, then please do so. If you have a spare moment, you can leave a 5-star rating and or review on Apple Podcasts. That would be ace. And if you don't want to do that, then of course, that's okay. But do take some time to have a good long look at yourself. Because we're doing our best to be better versions of ourselves. Yeah. You know? Just saying.
Sponges.
Yeah.
Get them on side, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Coming up, some bookmarks and pickups from the last Christmassy episode. Work-life ballet. We're talking about death.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about death.
Yeah.
Is that better? And Brave Food, we've got an intriguing title of Investing in You. That sounds like some kind of bank has written that line, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're getting all corporate in our old age, aren't we? So how are you? How's your...
It's been okay.
Yeah?
It's been okay.
Good.
Yeah.
You've eaten well?
You've
trained and eaten as
I've trained every
day.
day.
You do look bigger, actually.
I am bigger. It's like so strange how
You do.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying that.
This is the heaviest you've ever seen me.
Is it?
In 2 weeks, I've got the heaviest you've ever seen me, yeah.
Whatever.
Since you know me, yeah.
Is it seriously?
Yeah.
Because you were struggling to put it on, weren't you?
Yeah. Now I just eat all the time and it works.
It's amazing that, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. It looks like you've got like loads of layers on, but you haven't.
It is nice when it happens. You've got
a muscle suit on.
Yeah, one of those sumo suits. Yeah. No, it is nice when it happens. Bulking is such fun. It's, you know what I mean? I mean, you lose the definition. There is that bit of not looking ripped and stuff, but just being bigger is, it's fun.
Do you feel better for it?
Yeah, I think I do.
Yeah.
I think because sometimes I can look quite drawn and morbid and skeletal. So stuffing my face with bacon and egg and
that's all the good stuff, right?
All the good stuff.
Very good.
That's what God intended.
You've gone all religious again, have you?
No, I don't know even why I said that.
It's what baby Jesus would have wanted.
Yes.
You just stuff your face. There's no tomorrow. Do you get some nice presents? You said as you came in, you did, but then we didn't go any further. You said you did well.
There's
two parts to this.
Two parts what to my response?
Maybe the two parts of my questioning. What you got and what you asked for on this podcast, but we'll come to that in a minute.
Okay, yeah. Well, last year I can remember this was the start probably the start of my altruism, I think, a little bit in terms of I sort of went, don't buy me presents, just help poor people. And people are going like, what the fuck do you want?
You didn't do that with me because I bought you something.
Yeah. I've been supporting a charity for a long time called World Vision, and you sort of, you support a child in, I think it's Bangladesh at the moment, and they send you like little pictures of stuff they've done at school and like a little handwritten report. And I quite like the specific nature of it, that it, again, like we were saying before, it makes a difference when you get, and I know this, they're not giving 25 quid a month to this girl so she can go out and, buy crack, but she...
What? It's taking a turn?
No, what I mean is she doesn't get every penny it goes into the charity and they look after her.
She gets a bit of
it. But that personalised bit of it makes it feel...
Does she write it?
Yes. Oh. She writes it, and then they write a translation of what she's written. So they ask her a few questions on this sort of... It's just like a sort of colourful little end-of-year report. Okay, and she'll say, things I like are maths or whatever. Then you'll have a photograph of her. So last year I sort of said, I quite like World Vision. Can you... They do a little pamphlet.
Oh, yeah.
So I ended up buying a bloody herd of goats. Well, not being given a herd of goats. Everyone, oh yeah, this is what you wanted. We've bought a goat. And someone goes, I bought a goat. And it's like, so I bought a lot of goats. And I think what happened this year is because my birthday and Christmas are close together. For my birthday, I went, I would like you to invest in, donate to charities. And without being directional, what I said is either donate, what I would like is to donate to charity that means something to you, or one that you know I would relate to.
Yeah.
And I found it quite moving, the thought that people put into the charities they chose. So that was heartwarming.
That's
but I
good.
think what happened, especially for Christmas, is people are going, I just want to buy you a present. Do you know what I mean? It's,
Yeah.
It's okay doing donations, but sometimes you want,
Yeah.
to give someone something that gets unwrapped. So yeah, it was good. It was good. How about you?
Good.
Is that a Christmas T-shirt?
Yeah, but not for. I didn't get it for Christmas.
No.
I had it since about July.
Okay.
I bought a Christmas T-shirt.
It's Christmas
July.
themed though,
It
isn't
is,
it?
yes.
Can you explain that?
It's because I was going to see Green Day this year in Ireland.
Yeah.
This was their shirt that they did for the tour, but they just decided to do a Christmas one. I don't know why, really.
No.
But
What was the name of the tour?
Hella Mega.
Okay.
So your Christmas wish on the podcast was for someone to send a link to this podcast to 2 other people.
Yeah.
And then you went, oh, can I have some watercolour pencils as well?
Yeah.
I didn't realise this was a platform for us to ask for Christmas presents. But you did.
And got.
And
ask and you shall receive.
Asketh and you receiveth.
Yeah. And Wayne delivered. And I'm going to put this.
Sucker.
I'm going to put this out. Yeah, he bought me like a pad. Well, it's like a set with a sort of pad of posh paper, I guess. I haven't opened it yet. And a set of really sort of pretty watercolour pencils. So
soft kidney.
Yeah, I'm going to do a picture of Frisia or something and send it to him. But yeah, it was nice. And it does show that subliminal advertising
hardly
works.
Subliminal.
Yeah, give me. I'm not sure if the 2 links bit worked. Our numbers haven't gone through the roof yet.
No, they haven't, have they?
16 though on Christmas Day, first few hours.
That was quite fun, wasn't it? And
there was 6 in the first hour that people have actually got up and the first thing they've done on Christmas morning.
That's mad, isn't it?
It was lovely that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for those
Very
guys.
heartwarming, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's all I wanted for Christmas.
A warm heart. What was your key present then?
I got a few things. I got their books there. I got Barack Obama's book.
Is that by?
Who's that by? Don't know. It's quite thick. I didn't realise how thick it would be.
Yeah.
I don't think I've read a book that thick since school.
The book you bought me was thick.
Yeah, it's thicker than that, isn't it?
God, that was thick.
I know.
That was a...
And when you open it, you think, oh, maybe the writing's big. No.
No, that's a tome, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we could always use it as a door stop or something.
You could use it as a small house. I was flicking through it, and it was one of the names of one of the early punk rat scabies. I just thought that was...
Rat scabies.
Rat scabies, yeah. I just thought that was a great...
That's a band name or a singer?
No, an individual.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Rats. It's very good. But no, it's just books, really. I'd kind of do business books or books about, we've talked about this before, haven't we? Fact and fiction, and I can't do stuff that's made up.
Yeah.
It just feels like such a waste of time. Do you know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah. I haven't written any more on my book, but I've started going into, we were talking about, what was the term?
Yeah, because if you suddenly decide to write a book about a young wizard at a wizarding school, I'd be like, nah. No,
I'm not going to go down that route.
No,
I think it's been taken.
No, I know, but the fact you're writing about real life stuff, I'm kind of definitely interested. Whether it was you or not, I'd just be interested.
Yeah,
I haven't got time for made up stuff.
Yeah, I guess there's enough fact out there to excite you, isn't there? Because I said I've been doing some poetry and you said something about Christmas rapping, which was quite amusing.
No, hold on. I got to training and you just randomly dropped in.
I started like singing to you, didn't I?
No, you said I've started rapping, or so you said something about being an MC. I've got some. I'm like, I picked you up on it. Up. No, I think it was early. Then you read something from your phone.
Yeah,
which is cool. You wrote that, didn't you?
Yeah,
that was cool. It's just the way you suddenly kind of said, "Oh, I've started." I don't know. It's like your schemes. I come in and go, "What are you gonna be best at this week?" You're like Mr. Ben.
There was only 12 episodes made. Could you believe that?
What, Mr. Ben?
Yeah,
a bit like 40 Towers.
40 Towers.
Was that 8 or was that 12 or something? It wasn't very many. You want to be the new Eminem?
I think.
Eminem.
There was something you said on a recent podcast that really made me smile. I started off on this sort of spewing forth of ideas, and you went, "Just stop, just tell me what you're talking about." Yeah. And that was a little bit when you came to training. I sort of opened the garage door.
Yeah.
It's 8 o'clock in the morning.
Bang.
You're there with your scarf and your coat. And
freezing.
It was cold.
Yeah, and you sort of wanging on about how you've become a rapper. I'm like,
yeah.
Am I still dreaming? Am I still in bed?
No, I'm going to be the world's best. Oh, what's the
What is it this
word?
week?
This is so annoying. It's not rapping. It's when you do spoken word. That's the one.
Right.
So I did it. I'm not going to read it out now.
Well, there's those poets that just stand there and spit it out without actually looking at it.
Yeah.
It's all in their head.
Yeah, I'm going to be the new Benjamin Zephaniah.
Okay.
But I wrote one last night and I'm really pleased with it.
Right.
But it isn't fun. So
what isn't fun?
The piece.
Oh, a bit dark, is it?
Yeah.
All right.
Bit of a shocker there.
Yeah. Anyway, should we move on?
Let's go.
Cinderella's hometown.
Oh, I didn't look it up because I knew you would. Go on.
This small unnamed village acts as the middle setting of Cinderella. It is in the middle between King's Castle and Cinderella's chateau. Did she live in a chateau?
She didn't live in a chateau.
Well, actually, chateaus don't have to be kind of big and expensive and plush, do they? Or are they gîtes?
We'll name one that isn't.
Yeah. Cinderella is seen riding through the village on her way to the royal ball. The village is also seen... why am I reading this? Doesn't it tell us anything?
So you don't know the answer?
No, it doesn't have a name, which I could have just said. It doesn't have a name.
Okay.
The village is also seen after Cinderella leaves the ball on the way home, so I don't think it's actually important where she lives or anything.
So you've actually looked up something that tells you that the village exists?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't have a name, but it does exist.
Well, none of it exists. Let's
next
get that straight.
Next you're going to tell me it was fiction.
All made up. Yeah. Little Lorraine Kelly.
Okay, can I just interrupt? I looked up Little Lorraine Kelly. There's no references on the internet to Little Lorraine Kelly, is there?
There's plenty to Lorraine Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very well placed on Google. Everything you read on Lorraine Kelly, you basically think she's Mother Teresa. Did you find that?
A little bit.
Apart from the tax bit.
She's up there with Philip Schofield.
Yeah.
She's 5'4".
Okay.
Or 1.65 m.
Well, which?
Take your pick.
You couldn't decide.
I don't know which one's closest.
Yeah. Okay.
And I didn't realise what the HMRC thing was all about IR35. I've read that. I'd spent about an hour reading about it.
I'm sure all the listeners have as well.
The whole kind of court case as well. And that, don't want to get into IR35 here. It's pretty boring.
Yeah.
But I think she won anyway.
She did win. Yeah.
So great. Good for her.
And she's got an MBE or something as well, hasn't she, I think?
I don't know.
I think she has.
Did she accept hers?
Which would be interesting if it was services to broadcasting. And she went, sorry, I'm an actor.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Couldn't accept
she's still
it.
broadcasting.
Yeah.
It's basically getting around the fact that she is going through a limited company.
Yes.
Rather than having a direct employment contract with ITV.
Yeah.
That's basically what it was. The Royals, Harry and Meghan's podcast. No, I went and watched the trailer for this.
Watched
just so
or
I can
listened?
have a
Watched or listened?
Oh, I suppose I actually watched the audio clip.
Okay. You watched it on SoundCloud?
Yeah. I listened to the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, even right to the end when he said Happy Holidays, and I didn't get the reaction that you did.
You didn't?
I think you just don't like him. I think that's all it is.
I don't...
If that can be that kind of jarring, then there's got to be something about them.
No, I disagree. What I think it is, they have got that position to probably be they'll probably not knock Joe Rogan off the top spot.
It's just with Spotify only.
Yeah.
Is it like Joe Rogan's deal?
Although they have done deals with Disney and Netflix on other things. But on the podcast, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Joe Rogan's been transferred across to Spotify as well, hasn't he?
Yeah,
so
it's exclusively.
Yeah. We haven't been...
I think you can...
They've all been taken off YouTube, the Joe Rogans, or most of them have anyway. Okay. So the point I'm saying, I don't think I am anti him, no. What I'm anti, I think it's the authenticity. If script writers are writing a 2-minute trailer, and I think she sounds really good in it, but she is an actor.
Awesome, yeah.
But it's a really good voice, really good pace.
Yes.
And he does feel a little bit like the sort of stooge. Don't you think a little bit?
Yeah, maybe.
She's ruling the roost. She's very, very competent and very together. And the point I'm making is that people would listen to it because of who they are.
Of course they will.
But the thoughts and the script, I reckon, are going to be so tight from a whole bank of script writers.
Oh, God, yeah.
That what you're listening to isn't Harry and Meghan. It's a sanitized view of Harry and Meghan. In which case, you might as well just get two people with a good voice.
So I think this is kind of why I dropped this in, because we were talking about the level of our acting, and I'm doing the old air quotes here, because I understand your point about saying we put on. We don't. I guess that's the thing I was struggling with. I don't feel we act. I think we're ourselves. Of course, we put in a little bit. We put effort into it, and we think about what we're saying, and also we're very conscious about what we're saying and how it's coming across. And I edit that based on a curation, for one, editorial, proper editing.
That's a good word.
We're no different to them. Because there's things that we're not putting the rawest version of us across, and I don't think.
But every word we put is genuine and unique.
Scripted
and
by
Ricky Gervais,
a bank of script writers. No, you know what I'm saying.
Colin,
Doesn't matter if this is script or where is Colin? I haven't seen Colin for weeks.
I was just going to say Colin and his troop of chimpanzees, because I recognised in the last podcast I sometimes start half a sentence and then leave it thinking everyone knows what I'm saying. Because you were talking about the typhoon in a scrapyard, junkyard, and I said, "Oh, is it like a group of chimpanzees with typewriters?"
And I did know what you mean with
but
that.
a lot of people won't know that it's
about.
about.
If you had an infinite amount of time, a room full of typewriters and a room full of monkeys, that all live forever.
Yeah.
And unlimited ink in the typewriter, if you really want to get into that level of detail.
Yeah.
If you left them long enough.
They would write the complete works of Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Harry and Meghan.
Yeah.
I guess there's a little bit of polish that people put on stuff. And I don't think they're going to be any different. But we're also not being scrutinised like they are. So they probably have to be more careful. So I wrote something here.
Okay.
Kind of a statement, straight question.
Okay.
So they are using birthright, hard work and fame to spread something very positive. Ultimately, what they're trying to do is very positive, right? Now, if for whatever reason you had the same notoriety or media pulling power, bloodline to God, wouldn't you do a deal to get as many people as you can to spread that positivity? You know, we would like more people to hear about this.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same. Why wouldn't we use anything that we've got, connections that we've got, to try and do that?
Fair point.
A little bit sitting on the fence because,
because that's what
I'm trying to apply the balance to this. I don't think they're any different to anyone else. It's just that they're who they are. He didn't ask for that. She didn't ask for that. Their path, isn't it, that they found themselves on?
Okay.
People can have their opinion on it for whatever reason. None of us have met him.
No, I'm not judging them. No, not at all.
They've also got to make a living as well. Probably more now than ever.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to pay for his own security as well.
Yeah.
That's going to be a few bob, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Well made.
Oh, thank you.
That's it.
That was easy enough, wasn't it?
I wonder if Prince Andrew would do a podcast.
Anyway. Wow. We'll never hear from him again, is my prediction on that. Abiogenesis. I said I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
Abiogenesis, or informally the origin of life, is the natural process by which life has arisen from non-living matter, such as simple organic compounds. While the details of this process are still unknown, the prevailing scientific hypothesis is that the transition from non-living to living entities was not a single event, but an evolutionary process of increasing complexity. It involved molecular self-replication, self-assembly, autocatalysis, God, this is really hard, and the emergence of cell membranes. Although the occurrence of abiogenesis is uncontroversial amongst scientists, its possible mechanisms are poorly understood. There are several principles and hypotheses of how abiogenesis could have occurred. Basically, no one's got a clue.
No.
No, haven't, have they? It's all just proper guess. They're winging it as well.
When I was listening back to the last one and making a few references to Noah, and I thought, God, I've got like you. Talk about sitting on the fence. I was going, maybe he did live to 950. I wasn't there. I can't judge. And in my heart, I'm going, I doubt it.
We have touched on this a bit, haven't we?
Yeah.
In different kind of ways. And it kind of felt like the last couple of episodes we were edging towards death a little bit more. So these podcasters that oh God, feel a little bit closer, they just feel like they go on. Oh God, make it stop.
You mentioned at the end of the last one and during the last one that we're going to do death. And I haven't asked you any questions because I was thinking it's a fairly broad subject, to be honest.
Yeah, we don't pick small, easy ones, do we?
No.
Not anything we can squeeze in an hour anyway.
I just wondered,
the other week.
I'd be interested to see your launching into death.
Okay, really?
Because there's 101 different ways we can go with this, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I wonder whether we're going to put a warning at the beginning.
What?
About triggering.
That everyone's going to die? What?
No, just that it might trigger people. I think we've done that on one or two.
Yeah, it depends. I think we've spoken about some more challenging things that we probably haven't put a warning up about.
Yeah.
I'd like to be known for our factual, references in this pod. But hopefully I think the fact that we all die is going to be fairly undisputed.
Correct.
That's probably the most undisputed statement we could probably make.
Yeah.
Not just here, but in life, isn't it really? It's a real leveler, isn't it? Death.
Yes.
So what is death? Death is the permanent, irreversible cessation of biological functions that sustain a living organism.
Yep.
Yeah, death is generally applied to whole organisms. A similar process seen in individual components of a living organism, such as cells or tissues, is necrosis, with necro, the Greek prefix meaning death. I didn't actually know that. I've heard of necrophilia, obviously. And
You say obviously.
well, you do, don't you?
Yeah.
For centuries, cultures have personified death to give this terrifying mystery a familiar face. Modern science has demystified death by divulging its biological processes, yet many questions remain.
They do.
Studying death is not meant to be a morbid reminder of a cruel fate, but a way to improve the lives of a living. That was quite a big theme. So our learnings from death are pretty much not, oh, that's quite interesting. It's like, well, how can we then make living better?
Yeah.
It's quite a theme.
Or how can we make death better?
Yeah, not so much, I guess. But yeah, that would be, not from what I read.
Okay, the point I said, the reason I said that was, and I know at the end of this podcast we're going to touch on the thing that was mentioned, the 80,000 hours of work, and if we just took 1% of that and planning, and the couple of bits that I've been reading around death that I'll drop in later have very much had a theme of the planning. And because you started this with, this is one of the, life's inevitabilities.
Nothing is certain but death and taxes.
Yeah, unless you're Lorraine Kelly.
Leave her alone. Poor little Lorraine.
You support everyone I have a go at, don't you?
Well,
you are such a rescuer.
You like her, really? What have you got against her?
Nothing.
Okay.
I haven't got anything against Harry and Meghan or Lorraine.
You just like winding me up, didn't you?
Philip Schofield, that's another one. Anyway, the point I was going to say was the things that I've been listening to and researching and reading up on, I tried to think of things that were linking to other podcasts we've done when I looked at death. And the planning bit came into my mind a lot. I'll touch on this later when I actually talk about what I was looking at. But I do feel it's my father having died this year, I'm aware, even though I spent a lot of time with him, every day with him for the last 9, 10, 11 months, and I knew he was, going to die, there was unanswered questions, there was lack of preparation, there was indecision right to the end, even to the end.
Even when you know it's coming.
Yeah, and even to the point
doesn't often make it any better, does it?
No, and it's my sister, we got the order of service, and because towards the end my dad wasn't sort of contributing very much in terms of, spoken word sort of thing, my sister said, I do know from a few years ago, he definitely wants we plough the fields and scatter. And obviously because of COVID, you weren't allowed to sing
of course, at
the funeral.
Yeah.
I did tell you that we did sing, didn't I?
I don't know whether you said on the pod, but I think you did outside of it.
Yeah, we did. Fuck 'em. So we got the order of service done. And then my sister rang me up and went, actually, it's all things bright and beautiful.
Oh, right. Yeah, you printed it all and everything.
Printed it all. And so she went back to the printers, got it changed. But the point I was making is, something's coming. The planning is this. And then it suddenly, we hadn't even got his favourite hymn right. And it wasn't her fault. Do you know what I mean? It was just literally got the wrong title. But I think the lack of preparation is maybe part of the avoidance to face death.
Yeah, maybe.
And
how to. I mean, it's like, most of these things for the first time. You lose your parents once, don't you?
Yeah.
So I got a few facts about death, me and me facts.
Yeah.
Many of us imagine death will be like drifting to sleep. Your head gets heavy, your eyes flutter and close gently. A final breath and then it's lights out. But it may not be that quick. There's some evidence to suggest that our consciousness sticks around while we die. This is due to brainwaves firing in the cerebral cortex, the conscious thinking part of the brain, for roughly 20 seconds after clinical death. There's a study on lab rats that have shown their brains surge with activity in the moments after death, resulting in an aroused and hyper-alert state. If such state occurs in humans, it may be the evidence that the brain maintains a lucid consciousness during death's early stages.
Okay.
Which is probably not very comforting to most, I would have thought.
No, I was going to say, that isn't comforting, no.
No, it's not. Death is not the end for part of you. There is life after death. Science hasn't discovered proof of an afterlife or how much the soul weighs, but our genes keep going after our demise. There was a study published in the Royal Society's Open Biology, looked at gene expression in dead mice and zebrafish. The researchers were unsure if gene expression diminished gradually or stopped altogether. What they found surprised them. Over 1,000 genes became more active after death. In some cases, these spiked expressions lasted for up to 4 days. Didn't even know it was a thing. So there's obviously stuff still going on.
Yeah.
After you're gone. There's a thing about animals which is quite interesting.
Okay. My reference that I've got lined up is about animals.
Because I guess part of my thinking was, as humans and our brains, does it allow us to understand that our demise is coming?
Yeah.
Gives our life a different context to if you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with animals, it says that animals mourn the dead, which I think they do.
Yeah.
Or they often take themselves off to die.
Yes.
So they're aware of, if they could talk and you ask them, they're probably, where are you going? Oh, I don't know. I just feel like I've got to go over here and curl up in a corner.
Yeah. Is it elephants especially who go to a sort of graveyard or something? Isn't
But there's no evidence to suggest that they're aware of death and life, the awareness that we have.
Yeah.
I'm sure it has a profound effect on how we live our lives.
Mm.
Do hair and fingernails grow after death? That's absolute nonsense, apparently. It's basically because new cells can't be produced after death. Why we die. So people who live to be 110 years old, called super centenarians, super centurions, are a rare breed. Those who live to be 120 are rarer still. The longest living human on record was Jeanne Calment, a French woman who lived to an outstanding 122. But why do we die in the first place? Setting spiritual and existential responses aside, the simple answer is that nature is done with us after a certain point. Success in life, evolutionary speaking, is passing on one's genes to offspring. As such, most species die soon after their fecund.
Yeah, fecund. Fecundity.
Which is, fecundity, Sounds a bit rude, doesn't it? But it's about your fertility, isn't it?
Yeah.
Virility.
Yeah.
So after their fecund days end, salmon die soon after making their upriver trek to fertilize their eggs.
Yeah.
For them, reproduction is a one-way trip.
I guess like mayflies. There's a lot of things, isn't there, that just their life really is defined by reproduction.
Yeah. It's odd, isn't it? I guess, but then you think, well, why do they exist? And I guess they're food for something else, right? And they'll check,
I mean, I don't think it's the most meaningful of lives by our standards.
But it's meaningful for someone else, other people the things that are eating them.
Well, just going back very quickly, one of the things I had looked at, Einstein did a lot of quotes on death. Really, I found it really interesting. I think I agreed with a lot of them. But it was just picking up the bit that you said then when we were talking about animals. The life is to create another generation. In effect, that's how nature survives. If there wasn't natural urges to mate and we didn't do it, then
but I always go to okay, that's great. We're producing, brilliant. Go us. And we're apart from humans' actions in stopping certain animals reproducing, that's another story entirely. But if we're all happily reproducing, you can still ask the question why.
Oh God, yeah.
You? It's probably like a 5-year-old going, why?
Who invented God?
Yeah.
James Morris. Was it Morris?
James McGregor.
Yeah.
But there's that bit. It's like, okay, if we have to keep going, what for? Are we all hanging around for something to happen? Is this one big experiment like your idea?
But that's a massive leap now, isn't it?
Well, it is. But if you just think, are we here just to do that? Are we here to learn? Are we here to save this rock? I mean,
But birth, reproduction, death has to be surely what every living. So using Darwinism in terms of we must be created just to continue the species. That's got to be the soul. The spirituality and everything else we then layer.
Yeah, I understand. That makes, if we just stop there, that's fine for me. Okay, cool. I accept that.
Yeah, I accept that.
Yeah.
And this is what Einstein
Should we
said.
crack on? But it's a little bit of, I still go, okay, that's very, we know we can all do that. Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, we'll never know that. We are going off sorry, you got a quote.
Yeah, no, it's just Einstein said, our death is not an end if we can live on in our children and the younger generation, which is the point that you just been saying.
Yeah, I've got a bit more on that in a minute.
For they are us. Our bodies are only wilted leaves on the tree of life. Mm-hmm. And so I think he had a very philosophical attitude towards death. And some of the other quotes that I've been reading resonate with me in terms of, there's two questions for me on death. The death of a living person. In my mind, in terms of a non-spiritual response, is we have been created to reproduce, to protect the species, and then we die. That's a life. And I don't think, in some ways, without, as you're saying, without the layers of spirituality and meaningful aspects of your life and what you can do for other people. That's a meaning
in itself.
Yeah.
But I guess for some that's not enough, is it?
No.
When you accept that, you kind of go, okay, but
that's what I'm saying. In terms of acceptance of death, if everything was on that level, we could go, our work here is done.
Yeah.
And then death in some ways wouldn't even be a sad aspect, because it would be, your role is done, you've created another generation, which is why you're here. This is just looking at it as a pure natural.
Yeah, I get that. There's a huge part of me going, yeah, it just doesn't, there's got to be more.
Yes.
Do you go any further than that? Do you go, that's cool?
No, I go way further than that. But what I'm saying is the mystery and the hesitancy to discuss death is because we do put all these layers on it, but I don't know whether we unpack those layers.
Yeah, I guess it's in the context of what we do, how much we achieve. It used to be that there was a time when we'd fight off bears, we'd kill things, eat them, we'd survive. In the winter we'd go into caves and stay alive.
Yeah,
that was it, to keep the species going. That was our job. Our jobs aren't just to do that. We don't need to.
No.
We don't need to produce. We don't need any more people right now. There's plenty of people producing. So what happens for the people who aren't producing? What's their purpose in life? And then I didn't really want to get onto the purpose of life necessarily, but that's obviously hugely important when we talk about death, and we'll come to some of the bits in a minute about the time we do have left. And then you go, well, then it's straight into you've had kids. You could go, my work here is done.
Yeah.
I haven't. So in that vein, what was I put here for?
Totally. So going back to what you just said about fighting the bear and living in a cave, because of a lot of children and mothers dying in childbirth and a lot of children dying in the very early ages.
It's about numbers, isn't it?
It is about a numbers game, yeah. It's a percentage game, isn't it? And in a way, that wasn't just creating new generations, it was protecting your generation.
And that was prevalent to my gran. My gran was one of 13, I think.
Yeah.
You think in the, early 1900s,
yeah,
they were shelling them like peas, weren't they?
Yeah.
Because, you almost had to. Some of the kids didn't get past 4 or 5.
Yeah.
She lost loads of them, in there before they were 10.
Mm.
I get that. So it's still a numbers game until, I guess, medicine got better. Vaccinations came online for everybody. Then you didn't have to have 13 kids, did you? Because most of them the ones you had made it. I guess if you look at it from a real scientific,
totally,
and animal kingdom kind of point of view.
And looking at it, your point of view of saying, well, you haven't got children, so you could go to Einstein and go, well, you're basically saying there was no point in me because I haven't got it. My death won't be continued by a generation. And so I think that is too blunt. What the point I think I'm saying is that the layers have come because there is now no need to have mass tribes of children in order to maintain people hunting, gathering food. Yes.
By wild animals or disease, apart from now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is probably the biggest threat we've had.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Other than what? You're looking at me like that for?
What, COVID?
A thing that we don't have a vaccination for.
Oh, don't start me. No,
but 100 years ago. No, but I wasn't. It's just that you kind of went, he's mentioned it. I could have died from, polio, but I haven't because of the vaccines or TB. I had a TB jab, so I haven't died of tuberculosis.
Yeah.
It was my point. This is probably the biggest, something that we haven't got, a vaccine for.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? You can't say you wouldn't have lived this long if you hadn't been vaccinated as a kid.
No.
There wasn't any of those things, and kids died of all sorts of things.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, what do you think happens?
I think I'm with Einstein on this. There's a couple of quotes that he said that I agree with. I liked one that he actually said, a man's ethical behaviour should be based effectually on sympathy, education and social ties and needs. No religious basis is necessary. Man would indeed be in a poor way if he had to be restrained by fear of punishment and hope of reward after death.
Okay. So for you, is it lights out, good night Vienna?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you find comfort in that? Is this a different view to when you because we talked about in the last episode was the last one? About your
finding religion for a little bit.
When you were in late teens or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Was your view different then? Was there an after, or was your view on death changed?
No, I think I had a view of an afterlife then.
Uh-huh.
I think one of the things that might have turned it was it's Dr. Faustus, written by Elizabethan tragedy by Marlowe. And Marlowe, a lot of people thought Marlowe wrote a lot of Shakespeare stuff, but that's by the by. So the full title was The Tragical History of the Life and Death of Dr. Faustus, and studied this for A-level, I think. And from what I can remember, Faustus basically sold his soul to the devil in exchange for sort of 3, a bit like Aladdin's 3 wishes. He chose fairly debauched for his 3 wishes, and then it came down to his death. And if I remember rightly, he was basically given the chance to repent, but the devil went like, you can't get out of it like that. And Faustus went, okay, it's a fair cop. I've sold my soul, and then died without repenting. And I think when I read that, my interpretation of it somehow felt quite, I think it worried me to think that if you could repent for your sins, or if if a holy person visited you as you lay dying, when you went like, sorry for everything I've done, that the whole slate could be wiped clean, and that you'd end up in one place. And if you went, I had fun, and you go to another place, it felt,
Yeah.
It felt a little bit like a lottery, you know. And so I think, I have had some ideas that heaven and hell were a thing. And you mentioned in the last podcast, a lot of things that still happen, I imagine, in schools, probably less so in our time. Things are like, the Nativity and Father Christmas and the Tooth Fairy and Easter Bunny. There's a whole list of them. I think now kids are too busy doing TikTok at the age of 8 to worry about an Easter Bunny. So I think there's a certain cynicism. But I think we were told it was a very naive time. I can remember, feeling really disappointed if one of my friends knew before the age of like 10 or 11 that Father Christmas wasn't a thing. Whereas now the norm is that kids know, as soon as they can speak, that sort of mystery has gone. No. So I think everything now is questioned and looked at. And so I think the whole heaven and hell has almost been put into sort of a sort of fairy tale thing, especially in the Christian religion. I don't think it's talked about, whereas I think maybe in some other religions there is still much more emphasis on an afterlife. I find it so difficult to have any belief in an afterlife. As in, you're going to come to a fork in the road and that someone's going to do a resume. Yeah. Everybody's life is a whole dichotomy of different situations.
You're not going to turn around 80 years of debauchery in 5 minutes of going, I'm sorry about that.
But it's also, that this moral code isn't an objective measure. So it isn't exactly. Peter can be at the gates and go, you did give £434 to charity. And you did wang on about the goats in Bangladesh. But to be honest, when you were a punk, you did do that graffiti and you were, got in fights with people and you did other things that probably you're not proud of.
It's weird that we have got to afterlife so quickly.
Yeah, we just skipped over death.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Should we take a step back?
I think we both think then that, I agree with you, I think it's lights out, blackness. You won't even know you're dead, right? Are you kind of on the same level as that?
Yeah, although when I do hear the stories of people having a bell in the coffin just in case.
Oh, what?
In the olden days.
Oh, God, that's put a shiver down my spine.
No, it's a thing.
In case they didn't die?
In case they'd been put in as dead and they weren't dead, they had a bell.
Well, that's freaked me out. Thanks for that. I don't know, it's really quite chilling, isn't it?
Should be reassuring, really.
Yeah, but who's going to hear that when you're 6 foot under? Been cremated.
It's like the film...
It's not going to come in handy.
Asbestos bell.
Go on, what you say?
No, this doesn't need to go in. I was just thinking the film, is it Trapped or Buried?
Buried with Ryan Reynolds.
I watched that on a... I suffer from claustrophobia badly.
On a plane? Was it?
On a plane, yeah.
It's not good. Stuck inside a tin sausage watching that. No, it's really not cool.
Yeah.
It's an awful film, isn't it? It's really awful. It is awful.
So clever, though.
Yeah. Are you scared of death?
Nope.
Cool. These are very easy ones.
I was until fairly recently. Really, really scared.
Until how recently? What, last couple of years?
Yeah, last 3 or 4 years.
Right. Have you had a near-death experience? I mean, you've had plenty of, I guess, a few opportunities recently to kind of with your heart and stuff. So
that might,
I guess, putting yourself certainly at risk. I guess if you're going to have an operation, there's more risk of dying than not having an operation. So,
I think certain things. I think you're true to a degree. I think it's more. So 2 things did make me think. One was when I had surgery on my brain. So I read something and someone said, because the discussion I had to have with the neurologist before the operation was different to other consultations I've had. And I went away and read a couple of things, and there was something I read that's always stuck with me. It said, it's really tricky for the brain to consider what's happening to itself.
Oh, yeah.
So the brain can logically go, this is going to happen to your heart, and it'll all be all right because this is going to happen.
Because it's not me. The brain's not
thank God it's not me. But when the brain is trying to rationalise...
Is that a thing? Is that actually a thing?
Yeah. Because one of the things... Well,
your brain goes, hold on, no, this is... Because your brain is basically the machine that protects itself.
Your brain is processing
it's
the
trying to stay alive, right?
of what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's the whole thing responsible for keeping you alive.
Yeah. And so it'll either see things... and
it's directly under attack.
Yeah. And the operation I had, which is called coiling, is a wire is put into my brain, and then the aneurysm is filled with titanium wire. So if the aneurysm breaks, instead of being a load of blood that's going to come and flood your brain, it's full of wire. So there's a little chunk of wire in my brain so that if that broke, nothing would happen. Do you know what I mean? There's no liquid then to...
Yeah, okay.
But the interesting thing is when they talk about the operation before you have it, it's very much done on a sort of probability. So your aneurysm gets to a certain size and they basically sit you down and go, you got two choices. If you had the operation, this is what could happen.
Right.
If you don't have the operation, this is what could happen.
Yeah.
And you're weighing up. And I really, this is when I went away and looked at it, and this point of your brain is making a call on what's best for it. Do you know what I mean? Your brain's going, well, I could take the risk of not having...
It's a fine line. It's not...
Yeah.
The balance is like...
Yeah.
It's a difficult decision, isn't it?
And then it comes down to wise mind. Because you have to tie together the logic of, right, I've got to... So some people, I would imagine...
the numbers, the statistics of success rate.
I think some people with the emotional mind, because I don't mind surgery, it's nothing, I don't fear it at all. But someone might go emotionally, shit, I don't want wire in my brain.
Yeah.
That ain't happening.
Yeah.
And the logic gets pushed out.
Yeah.
For myself, the logic was, this is your chance of something going wrong. And as a bookie, I was thinking, okay, those odds are long enough.
Yeah.
If I didn't have the operation, there was risks in other ways, and those were including hits to the head. Well, I do weight training, I play football. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The chances are that was probably a more risky. So I came to a wise mind decision. But I think that's one reason I don't have the same view of death. Yeah. That I guess I've pictured. And I actually thought if I don't wake up from this, that's okay. It's not.
Yeah.
I didn't have any fear. That's why I didn't have any sort of pre-op. It was just, I'll just face it and take a very fateful attitude. And
I think having the anaesthetic going under for that, which I did for my op, and having that twice, all the things that happen to you under that, that you don't feel, you have no recollection of. I think I was probably more scared of death before I had that experience.
Yeah.
It was the best sleep I had. It was.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, isn't it? You come out of those, you go, that is just, you feel groggy because you're full of morphine or whatever, but you don't have to get a rest. And you think, okay, if that's, I wouldn't have known. If I died in the middle of that, I'd never have known. That's the theory, isn't it? That's what I think. I don't know what happened.
I agree with you. Yeah.
That's kind of how I came. And that,
and that would be a calmer death. But and I don't mean this in any way as a morbid.
You're talking about the way you die.
Yeah. But taking on what you said, if that was one of the options of not coming through from an operation.
It was all very calm. I walked in there, it was all very nice. Blah, blah, blah. You're going to, lovely, have a cup of tea.
And I had the same thought that you had. It was that if I don't come back from this, it's okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't a fear.
I never know anything. Yeah.
I think maybe the next step that's come through my mind now is that whether the situation around death is around more probably the effect on the living than the effect on the person that's dying.
But that's like any illness. We've touched on this, probably not in the pod, but together we've always said that when you are ill, it is worse for everybody else.
Yeah.
That was profound for me. And I totally understand why, but I think you're right.
Yeah. And you see people who are suffering from cancer who seem to exhibit a sort of really stoic approach to life, and it's like a calmness, and this is what I've got, and I'm going to carry on. And
we're talking about that yesterday. We're talking about Sarah's mum who died of MND, and you see this in a lot, like exactly what you just said. There was the way she kind of handled herself, the grace and the humour, and the strength that she showed. We still can't comprehend it to this day.
Yeah,
because you go, well, I don't think I'd be the same. But I think if you are in that position, I think it is amazing the kind of the strength you find and the strength your human spirit finds.
Yeah, no, I'd agree.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've been, and you kind of go, no, it's weird. Your body just goes, I've got this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And your brain goes into, I've got this. Or your brain just goes, I think your brain probably does a lot more than you can ever think of. Maybe all the bits we don't know about and we don't think we use. Maybe those are the bits that kick in and just get you through it.
Because you'd almost...
It's a total different mindset. I didn't feel scared.
No.
I didn't feel nervous. It was just a calmness I've never had when I was ill. I can't explain that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I don't know whether
totally.
you were the same. Everyone else is freaking out. It's like, no, so it's okay. I'm right.
Yeah.
It may look bad, all these things sticking out of me, but...
And all the people that I've been around, during the last few days or few weeks or whatever, have seemed to have had that inner strength. Even if they were in quite a rough position physically, there has seemed to be a calm, and you'd almost think it'd be a frenzy of like, shit, I think I'm going to die in a week. And, but that nervousness and that sort of, so I think you're right. Maybe the body does do a preparation, and it'd be naive to think it didn't.
Yeah.
If we can recognize other things in life.
When you go back to it, it's soul, if your purpose is here to stay alive and reproduce, then your body and your mind is doing exactly that when you're poorly. It's doing everything it can.
Yes.
All the subconscious stuff.
Yeah.
Thousands of years of evolution are kicking in, aren't they? How much do you think we talk about our own death? How we talk about death came up in one of the pods, didn't it? And you were going around the graveyard.
Yeah. And other people have got back to me. A couple of people have got back to me and said, I feel uncomfortable about the sleeping as well.
It's odd, isn't it, that we can't just...
Like
Yeah, the language we
I've
use.
taken my daughters to every funeral I've been with since they've been alive. So they could be 6 months, they would come to a funeral. This, I think it's imperative.
I've had examples in very recently of children being sheltered from death.
Yeah.
And I have my opinions on it. And of course they have every right to do what they want.
Yeah.
But
We're expressing our opinions.
I have struggled with that because I think there's things you can protect children from, and I don't have any, so it's easy for me to say these things. But why shelter people from the things that
it's inevitable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they have it now, is that better than having it in your 20s? Oh, because you're older in your 20s or 30s and you suddenly you experience trauma or death. You might not be able to handle that any better.
No.
You know what I mean? Just because you have age on your side where you've got no experience. Yeah. So, and I don't think you're gonna ruin anyone.
And also sometimes
by going through that in a young. Of course, everyone has people lose people young. I get that, and that is awful, and that's going to live with them forever. But also will shape them. I
think sometimes the reason being I don't want to upset them. It's like as if upset is something that should be avoided at all times. Surely it should be, as you're saying, should be faced in a way.
We're at different ages, but you said something a couple of months ago about how many summers you've probably got left.
Yeah. The 15 summers, just to elucidate on that, was around, I guess this is part of the growing acceptance. I'd heard some guy, he was doing this much more on the sort of, I think he was in his 40s and was going, I've worked out I'm likely to have X number of summers. And doing it as summers, as I said to you in the garage, sort of, it almost created a visualization for me, because I was thinking, I'm 60 now. Average life expectancy in this country is 80. So I'm fit and well. So I'd imagine I get to 80. However, I do have certain conditions that might be life limiting to a degree. Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
So without being total pessimist, I had this idea of 15 summers.
Yeah.
And I think then just saying it as summers somehow, I'm there visualizing, thinking
15 winters left.
It had to be the summers. 15 winters doesn't work.
What you said the other day was 15 summers, but knowing my luck, they're going to be shit ones.
It's going to be a washout. Yeah.
But we have established that the weather is,
immaterial. Yes. Other people are going to think it's washout. But the point that when I went away, when we decided we were going to talk about this, I looked at a research, and I'm sorry about this, I totally forgot. I think it's a podcast called Dying Matters, and I think it's from like a hospice type. And they did some research fairly recently that asked a large number of people, you're told you have 12 months to live. What are you going to do? About 50%, or your priorities, 50% were, I'm going to get my house in order. Not cleaning.
Decorating. My front room could do with a lick of paint.
Yeah, that's probably
no
things like records.
Well, your affairs.
In order.
What you're going to leave.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, so that was number one on the list.
Just get my CDs in a different order.
Paper records. Yeah, from happy to sad. You got the Smiths up there. So that was 50%, and the other 50% were fairly evenly split between two. One was, I'm going to do as much as I can on my bucket list. So I'm going to fill those 12 months with experiences.
Yeah.
And the second one was basically see everyone I know that I have any affection for, any feeling for, basically to say goodbye. Yeah. And all three of those, the last two of those, I can totally understand, but they didn't resonate with me as like, I'm now going to go to the Hanging Gardens of Babylon because that will make my death easier. I didn't think in those terms. Yeah. But the first one did.
Yeah.
I'm thinking,
the admin,
which is what I'm not good at, is what I most want to do.
Imagine leaving that to someone.
Yeah.
I've got the same thing.
And I have written a book before one of my operations. I wrote things like what I want at my funeral, passwords to bank accounts, direct debits, all the sort of horrible admin-y type stuff. And I put it all in a book. So it was funny. That was the one for someone who's not good at admin. And that's what came into my mind. Almost that sort of, everything's in order, because you're almost thinking of other people, aren't you? It's like, well, at least when I go, I'm not causing a fuss.
Yeah. Last year, my best mate died, and I helped his widow with sorting out his IT, because I know a bit of IT. You probably noticed. And this is not a bad thing, and I probably won't go in because it's quite sensitive, but he left an Excel sheet, usernames and passwords, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough.
As in?
He knew he was going to die.
Yeah.
I know that I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So talk about getting your house in order. I don't want to leave anyone with an Excel sheet.
No.
That's not enough.
No.
And suddenly you realise how many places your email is attached to. LinkedIn.
Yeah.
He's still on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
The admin is a really big part of it. Maybe that's one we should spin out. So we talked about learning, improving, altruism, understanding our health,
Yeah.
in terms of what we do on this pod, what we eat, how to stay healthy in the pursuit of ultimately prolonging our lives,
Yes,
right? I mean, it all ties in, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Or
So-
improving the quality.
Yeah.
Maybe not prolonging
Sure.
necessarily, but
Well, yeah,
making the years we have better.
Or I guess end goal.
Yeah.
I guess why we're doing it. And we go back to what we touched on at the beginning, which threw me a bit because I thought we were going to get to it at some point, but we went straight to the why. Why are we all here? The bigger existential question. But is it because we enjoy living or that we want to make a mark on this world in some way? And we have also touched on legacy. And what we're talking now is very specifically legacy, but in an admin perspective and not necessarily what you're leaving to your, to the world, I guess, maybe not just your nearest and dearest. Basically, the point of our existence. There's lots of things in here, isn't there?
Yeah.
In terms of legacy, you don't want to leave admin behind,
Mm-hmm.
but you also want to be remembered. You don't want to be remembered for leaving a load of admin behind, do you? Do you know what I mean? You want to remember, oh, that's what he did. No, he did that all his life or her life, and they made a real impact, whether they pass their genes on or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite easy to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what about the other stuff?
Yeah.
And I can't start looking at legacy, and there's different types of legacy or symbolic immortality, as it's called. So the term symbolic immortality refers to what remains from our lives after death. These may be material, such as what we've built, created, or given birth to, or ephemeral, such as thoughts, values, our jokes, a network of friendships, our acts of kindness, helping people in distress, being generous with charity, or doing a good deed.
Yeah.
Freud, for example, after 16 years of treatment for the painful and humiliating symptoms of mouth cancer, was more concerned about the possible loss of his theories than the loss of his life.
Mm.
He'd undergone a transformation from his earlier fear of death to its mastery, but worried, what will they do to my theory after my death? Will it still resemble my basic thoughts? His hope for symbolic immortality was that his theories would live on us after his death. And Jung, he, on the other hand, had believed both in the pre-modern and modern Christian hope of resurrection and immortality. He was more concerned about the state of his soul rather than what he left behind. So very quickly, there's 4 different types. So there's biological symbolic immortality, where most people feel that even after dying, there is hope of an afterlife with an immortal soul. So I can live on in mankind. The second one is theological or religious symbolic immortality. The belief in life after death is seen in most religions and spiritual practices. Creative symbolic immortality. We're kind of talking about creativity. These are all tying in the stuff we've been talking about. When one is creative through art, literature, a great discovery in science, or in doing a humble, benevolent, kind act for someone in need. In this way, one escapes death by living afterwards through acts and accomplishments, which will be remembered for generations and possibly centuries. And last one, symbolic immortality of nature. Nature also exemplifies symbolic immortality. It is everywhere and limitless and will survive forever. And there's an old Japanese saying that the state may collapse, but the mountains and rivers will remain forever. Mm-hmm. If any one of those, it probably feels like the creative symbolic immortality.
Yeah.
You think we're going to leave something. I don't know what that would be yet. It'd be nice to kind of think that, something carried on with that as a business, or, you leave a book, or I always think of actors.
Well, I was thinking of these when I was driving here today. I thought if I crash on the way here today and die.
Yeah, I'd have to do this on my own.
You'd have
to. You didn't think about that, did you? I thought about yourself, didn't you?
That is one of my problems. But no, I guess in terms of, this would be quite a strange, I don't mean in terms of legacy, I don't think these are going to go down into...
No, but I think of these things, like, not if we were a music artist or an actor, and we were in, I guess, a popular one, everyone's seen and heard your stuff.
Yeah.
But I think these things, it's going to be a weird one, because there's going to be so many of these things. Well, 1 million podcasts there are already now. You think in a year there's going to be another 2 million. We're not even going to, no one's ever going to find us. No one's going to have... scraping past rock and dust, and then they find us on a hard drive. I mean, it's not going to happen, is it?
No, but this is something that didn't happen back in the day. So if somebody is a casual acquaintance of us, guys we've mentioned before,
I guess they could listen back to us.
I think the majority of the guys we go away with are going to be a bit sorry if we died and they'd come along, but it isn't going to be a lasting, sense of 7 years of mourning and wearing black. But I think I would find it quite emotive to be able to listen to the voice of someone I was friendship with.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know what effect, I don't know if I'd seek it out.
Yeah.
I just thought, I've got a couple of things regarding my parents that are interesting. That one was, I've got a video of my dad fixing the curtains. He was the most old-fashioned, old-school person, and you've heard about my mum as well. But they had timed curtains that were on a timer.
All right.
and they shut themselves. Just one pair of curtains in the whole house that shut themselves.
That's quite advanced.
Yeah, he's had this since like about the 70s, but it didn't really work. I was there looking after him, and I said, right, I'm just going out now to do X, Y, and Z. I said, you got everything you need? And I said, yeah. And he said, just sit there, watch the telly. Anyway, I'd forgotten something. I think I was going to football and I'd forgotten my boots. So I go back in and I hear this noise. My dad had climbed up on a desk,
Yeah.
In the later stages of cancer, to try and mend the mechanical curtains, which probably isn't the right. So I just videoed him behind.
Oh, did you?
And I didn't tell him I'd videoed him.
Right.
And then when I came back from football, I said, "You been up to much?" "No, I haven't left the chair." I haven't left the chair.
Like, you
Yeah,
fibber.
but I looked at that video the other day and it just gave me a warm glow of there's my dad being
Did
a
you
rebel.
show him when you got back? No,
Yeah. I
so
just
he
put
knew.
the phone up.
And you were like, you
Yeah,
fibber.
no words were necessary. But going back to the legacy, I mentioned a little while ago Quaker funerals.
Yeah.
My mum's Quaker funeral was the most, I guess, emotive and personalised funeral I've ever been to in terms of the structure of the Quaker meeting place is, if you want to say something, you get out. There wasn't a service. There was a group of us in a square room with, they're not exactly pews. It's sort of pews on every side. So you just sit wherever. And basically we get in and someone would just do an introduction to this is the funeral and memory. And then for about 5 minutes, everyone just sat round and then someone got up and went, I remember the time when.
Oh, okay, that's quite
And
cool.
this must have gone on for about 2 hours.
Wow.
But the interesting thing about legacy is obviously legacy is on personal perception.
Yeah, of
So
course.
when I got up and spoke about my mum, it was maybe tinged with certain
Yeah.
elements of our relationship that weren't positive.
Yeah.
But hearing everybody else basically go, she was an angel.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, it took me a step back, but the impression she had made on those people was her life had been so worthy because what she'd done. Now I had a different perspective.
Of course, yeah.
But hearing people, I think in terms of a funeral, that seems to me a lot more. Why do we summarize everybody's life in a 40-minute service where we sing a few hymns, a couple of people do a reading from the Bible, and someone gives us a eulogy? It's like, let's talk about the person. I thought something really, really sweet was my youngest daughter's been a pen pal with somebody up in Sutton Coldfield, actually, and she died recently, aged 99. And I think my daughter had been writing to her maybe for about the last 9 years, and she left a card with, I think it had £50 in it, which was really cute, like some words about how much that had meant. And in some ways, that was everything. And although my daughter went up for the funeral,
That's all
that
you'd ever
card
want,
is,
right?
that card's going to be in her drawer for the rest of her life. And I think maybe writing letters to people or saying what they meant to you or writing a poem or something when you're still alive could be part of the admin.
Yeah.
That went all over the place, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think death's a bit bigger than we'd imagined.
I think death, right? Yeah, an essay in 1,500 words. What is death?
What is creativity?
But when I was looking at it, all kind of ties. There's so many things that tie into the things we've talked about, especially about legacy and what we're all doing here, and like I said, quality of life, longevity to your life.
Might be worth going back because some of the things,
I think there's a few things
that I was looking at included something on playlists, a charity that's doing a playlist.
Right. Investing you. Well, give me.
Quick and dirty.
Oh, yeah, just have a like it. I don't know why I said that.
What voice was that anyway? Some of your accents. So we had a little chat beforehand and we've mentioned supplements before. We said maybe do a little bit about going back to nutrition. A couple of people have said that was really useful. And we keep mentioning supplements and I bang on about vitamin D to the point of, in 2 or 3 minutes, when we had that little chat, I think this is all coming down to admin. We were talking about you work for 80,000 hours and you put sod all planning in.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You decide you're going to do a course, and I'm not saying everyone's the same.
in the context of your career.
Yes, something that's going to be for your whole life.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever sat. I mean, I know I've gone from job to job.
No, and I don't know, apart from having my time booked in with you, how much time I don't diarise, because most of the kind of the long-term goals is about aligning that with your everyday actions, isn't it?
Yeah.
But likewise, who sits and plans their health?
Yeah.
For the week.
Yes.
Who spends just 5 or 10 minutes thinking about what they're going to do that week?
Yeah.
Have I got my training booked in? Have I got, I don't know, the right food in the fridge? And
Yeah, I think some people do the basics, so they'll go. Have I got my tablets? Am I doing my PCs? But we've already talked about how difficult hydration seems to be, how difficult taking supplements. Like I said to you before, I've got quite a few clients who'll go, oh yeah, I heard you going on about vitamin D. I just wish I could remember to take it. It's like, you can.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's possible to take it. You just need to set up that habit stacking.
Yeah.
But just as we were talking, and we did this headline there, Invest in You. And I was just telling you about a friend of a friend who's just had an accident and found out in hospital that he was vitamin D deficient, despite the fact he's been taking a supplement. And then I looked into it, and there's ways that either the supplementation could be higher, or that there are aspects of our daily life that actually negate some of the effects of the supplements, which we'll go into. So the Invest in You, I think, was me thinking, if we take it one step back, I did that thing that I mentioned to you on my Insta story. I showed the Ralph Lauren overalls covered in paint.
You did.
Cost £434 and is in an outrage event about capitalism.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to donate that to charity. And I know the two are not linked in any way or form at all, but it was just a chance to,
Someone has benefited from your rage. And I think that's a good thing.
Yes. So what I was thinking was all the investment that people have done. Well, one investment would be the amount of time it takes to cook a bloody roast dinner. They've got to be the most disproportionately. 40 minutes to eat. It's a good few hours to prepare, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And so that's the analogy I wanted to use.
Look how much time we spend in, and just you could plan your whole year's worth of couldn't you, in that time?
Yeah, if you sat down instead of on December the 25th, I would imagine from start to finish, the average roast is probably 6 hours in terms of planning, preparing the veg the night before or the morning, putting the turkey in, getting everyone around a table.
Yeah, of course.
6 hours to prepare one meal.
Yeah.
For 6 hours, we could look at all the things that we were deficient in, or all the things that we could do better, or we could do some research, or we could talk to somebody.
Yeah. Like I said to you, take time to find out what we might need. We don't actually know what we need.
Exactly.
You're not going to OD on vitamin D, but you might actually be deficient, not just of that, but of other things.
Yeah. Very, very quickly, we looked at a website, and I'm not saying this is the best one because there's loads.
Yeah, because I went, well, how do you know?
Yeah.
Is that, how do we go? Is it your GP? Where do we go to find these things out?
So we had a quick look, and I think going to a GP now seems to be one of the hardest things to do in the world. Everything's either done on phone or not face to face. So the chances of getting a vitamin D test are probably very low.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to give the name, but we could maybe say the sort of organisations that are available, because I can't say that this one's better than any others. But I think the reality is that you're not going to get someone looking at all these elements.
Or if they are taking blood, I don't know, can you ask that they'd go and check?
You'd like to think they would, but I've
noticed,
never been told.
I've noticed on blood tests, they always look for the thing they're looking for.
Yes.
Don't they?
Exactly. I don't think they look for every aspect. No. So basically, this is a blood test that you do at home. A kit comes out, £79. And this particular one is a biomarker that includes active B12, magnesium, iron, vitamin D, and folate. So it's much more around vitamins and minerals. It isn't an overall health check.
I'd be happy to do one of these.
Well, I was just thinking the same, that we could both do one.
Yeah.
But it was interesting that one of the things I looked at, there was two things that they put forward. One was on sugar reduction. 52% of customers decreased the amount of sugar in their diet between their first and subsequent test.
Right.
So maybe if you get something back on a piece of paper that goes, shit, you need to look at this.
Yeah.
It's a bit different to your head going, I'm eating too many, whatever.
Yeah.
And the other one was 79%, and I think this is a scary figure. 79% of their customers, all customers, were found to have suboptimal levels of vitamin D.
Yeah.
And I said to you at the beginning, the people doing these tests are likely to be the people either motivated to want to know about their health or to do something about their health.
Yeah.
And 79% were below optimal levels. So maybe we just put this out there. Maybe you and I do this test, compare the results live on air. Yeah. That would be exciting, unveiling. We read each other's out.
Yeah. And we could do the prick test live on air. Sorry. And if I resist myself.
If I'm suboptimal vitamin D, I might as well give up.
You might tell you got too much of it.
Because I'm on 8,000 now a day.
Oh, you mentioned those units. I don't know what those are, because they sounded like vastly over what the recommended.
There's 2 units for vitamin D. Why does this happen? It's like Betamax and VHS.
It's like imperial and metric.
Yeah, but it's IUs and I think MGs.
Okay. IUs are what?
International units, I think. And they're the big numbers.
But you said the recommended was like 120, or you take 4,000 or something. So bloody hell.
The UK recommended is 400 IUs.
Okay.
I didn't tell you this, I wrote to Crunchy Nut Cornflakes the other day.
It doesn't surprise. Who haven't you written to this week?
And I questioned why they said that Crunchy Nut Cornflakes contain 50% of your daily vitamin D, because I thought fair play.
That what should be 200 IUs, right?
Yeah, but it said it contained 100. So I wrote to them and they said the EU standard down to some paper is 200. 200 IUs is like, it ain't a lot.
Right. Well, they're going to have to change that in January 1st, aren't they? I guess is the UK
standard.
UK
is 400.
So it's going to be 400 now. We're not going by the EU.
The EU is just the EU general. Each country has different ones within it. That's just the EU. People don't stick to that. Like Finland is much higher.
Maybe it's made in the... yeah, okay.
So, yeah, UK's
So you're taking 10 times
400.
what you should...
Well, I'm taking between 4,000 and 8,000 a day.
Okay, right.
Because there's been a lot of research recently about having some large doses for about a week. So 10,000 a day for a week.
Wow, okay.
Of really stocking up, especially at this time when we're not going to get any.
I'm taking one every day. Those pills that you gave, I'm still going through those. You gave me about 4,000 of them in a little box. The colour's gone in them. I don't know whether they've gone off now. I don't know how that works.
No, they'll be okay.
Okay, but I do. So, also, a little trick, I put them by the coffee mugs.
Yeah.
So I open the cupboard and...
If they're visual, you'll take them.
Yeah, stuff to do while the coffee machine's on. Press up vitamin D.
It's a bit of meditation.
Yeah.
So why don't we do this then? That we've just set there running with this. We'll order a test each.
Yes, that sounds good.
Compare and contrast. Feedback.
Very scientific. That's it for this episode. Well done for getting this far and thanks for listening. All links and references will be in our show notes. Please make sure you subscribe to us via your favourite podcasting app. And if you are enjoying this pod, then please do tell a friend and help us spread the word. If you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, then please do leave us a 5-star rating and or review in return for our love now and in the afterlife. Give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter at I'mFinecast, and you can send us an email to imfinecast@gmail.com.
Okay.
In the next episode, we're going to be having a chat. Now, that might not sound like much of a surprise.
Garage philosophy.
That is your idea.
Yeah, you look nervous.
I do, because I have reluctantly agreed.
I think begrudgingly
agreed to not have any structure to the next pod. We're going to sit down, we're going to hit record, and we're going to go. But we have agreed that I can put my intro in.
Yeah.
Other than that, we're freestyling.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to rap, are you?
I could do me spoken word. It's not very uplifting though.
No, nothing in this is.
It rhymes
We spent an hour talking about death.
Yeah, I guess.
What does rhyme? What rhymes?
The spoken word bit that I wrote.
Yeah, it does rhyme, yeah.
No, I've done a new one. I've deleted the other one.
What do you mean you deleted it? Just got rid of it?
Yeah.
Why?
I didn't like it.
Is that what you do with stuff you don't like?
Mm-hmm.
What if you want to come back to it?
I won't.
You don't know that, do you? You're like, oh God, that line in that was good. You don't chuck any of your book away, do you? If you don't like it?
Yeah.
We're going to have a word.
Okay.
Have a word in a minute.
All right.
Anything else?
Nothing else.
Okay. On that note, we shall say farewell.
My liege.
And Godspeed.